Hey everybody, this is Kevin with Nighthawk Motors, and today we're going to be going over exactly how to use Honda paddle shifters on the CVT transmission. Now, I had a couple requests for this video, and on this video, if you're new to the channel, this will be with the 2017 Honda Accord Sport with the 2.4 liter inline 4 engine and the CVT transmission, as I already explained. So basically, I have a list of items I typed out that I want to go over for you. Just my little driving experience with the car. You know, over the past year of ownership, I've come to notice a couple little details that this transmission has, and things that you wouldn't normally know just off the bat, or little observations you wouldn't know that are helpful in using this transmission to its fullest. So we'll start out with the driving in normal mode, which is basically just having the car in standard drive, driving around you know, town, on the highway, and basically just go over exactly what that does, and then we'll run through the rest of the different modes that this has. Alright, so let's switch over to a POV view here, and we'll get started with the list. It says yield, buddy. Let's go. Okay, so this is the POV portion of the video. We're going to go through normal driving mode, which we're in right now, just regular drive. And this is good for obviously cruising, but you can still use paddle shifters when you're cruising around. So say you're coming up to a hill and you want to downshift instead of using your brakes. Just click your downshift button like that, and it'll make the revs go up. And then once you start accelerating, or once you just start maintaining your speed, it'll shift back down for you, and you don't have to worry about putting it back into normal drive mode or anything. It's automatic. So we'll show that a little bit after this light's over. All right, so we're back moving again here, and we have something junk in the road. We're gonna show you exactly what happens when we use the paddle shifters when we're moving. Well, we gotta wait for this next light though. Once we get some clear roads, we'll be able to do this correctly. Just to show you exactly what I mean, but right now it doesn't seem like that's in the cards until we get past this cluster of lights that we have here. Okay, so let's show you exactly what happens when you pull the downshift on the paddle shifters when you're in drive mode, normal. It just brings the RPMs up, and then if you're just holding consistent speed like I was there, it puts it right back in normal drive. But if you do it when you're decelerating, it holds the RPM until you either slow up completely and has a downshift again, or until you decide to press back on the gas like I did there. Now, if you downshift and you're accelerating, it holds the RPMs as well, just so you can keep accelerating the way you want to, until you go back to a normal driving pattern, in which it returns back to its normal driving mode, like we are right now. Now, this is helpful when you're trying to merge in traffic, or not traffic even, when you're trying to merge into an on-ramp on a highway. It's helpful when you're trying to just have a quick little acceleration when you don't really want to reach down here and throw this in the sport mode and have it stick in the gear that you're in. So, okay, and I kind of skipped one thing, the normal drive mode in the car. Everybody's aware of how this works. This is just how everybody drives the car normally without trying to do anything fun, just cruising around. And you know, you press the gas down, RPMs rise up, you let off, and they can either hold themselves when you have the brakes on and you're going down a hill, which is something I learned. When you're going down a hill in this car and you have the brakes on, it tends to hold the RPMs at a higher level to essentially use the engine to assist you to stop, which is kind of cool. Okay, so the next point I want to dabble into here is actually when you're in sport mode. So after this light, we'll go ahead and show you how that works. Okay, so now we're in sport mode, no paddle shifters. And essentially what it does is it tries to hold the RPMs above 2000 RPM to keep you in the power band, so you have more response and more torque and more power at your disposal faster. Now, look, if I drop this back in the drive when I'm at the same throttle body position, it instantly drops down to save, I guess it saves gas and makes the car last a little longer because it's not using as many engine revolutions in its life cycle. But that's basically all that does. It just makes it a little more lively for you so it can get up to its power band faster. Okay, so the next thing I want to touch on is driving in sport mode with the paddle shifters. Now, there is a difference between driving normally with paddle shifters and driving in sport mode. When you drive in sport mode, you'll get something in there that says SM3, which basically means it's sport mode, manual 3. And the car won't automatically shift up unless you're at the rev limiter, in which case it'll mimic a standard automatic transmission and give you a little kick down every time it reaches the rev limiter. And it mimics just like how a regular automatic transmission works. It's kind of cool. But right now we're going to show you just basically how the paddle shifters work and some guidelines that you want to follow when you're using these on a daily basis, or you know, just whenever you want to use them, so you're not afraid to go out and try something on your car that you're not used to. So basically, some basic principles behind using paddle shifters or driving, say, a manual car. Now, I did drive a manual car for 10 years, so I do have a lot of experience in this. Basically, when you're cruising at, you know, highway speeds, you want to keep it in obviously the lowest gear, so you can have the least possible revolutions per minute on the engine, because that makes you use less gas, makes the engine last longer because there's less revolutions in its life cycle, and also keeps the temperatures lower because you're not basically you're not using as much fuel, causing extra heat and friction in the engine. So that's one thing you want to keep in mind. But if you're trying to accelerate, obviously the more RPMs you have, depending on the engine, some engines have a different power band. Now, the power band is something that interprets how much power the car makes at whichever RPM it's at. Say you want to accelerate here. Obviously, I'm stuck behind this VW guy is he even driving the speed limit? I don't know. Let's go down this street here and hopefully it'll be a little better. He's not even driving the speed limit. That guy shouldn't be driving. All right, so we're here, we're trying to accelerate, right? Want to downshift and then just basically give it the gas and upshift as needed. You don't have to rev it all the way out to 6,500 RPMs like you could when you're just doing moderate acceleration. That's only for extreme circumstances, when you're trying to merge on a highway, accelerate from a stop, things of that nature. I'm pretty sure you get the idea. So with this, you can downshift when you're trying to slow up before a turn or before a stoplight like we're at, and it does actually slow your car up, which is nice. Somebody's test driving the car sense car in front of us. Look at that. But it does slow your car up. It does save your brakes. It's very good for when you're trying to go down a steep hill. Truck drivers use something like that. It's called a Jake brake. Basically builds pressure in the engine, so you only use the engine to slow up, and it saves their brakes because those things are very heavy and they fry their brakes often, so that's what they have to use. So essentially, if you use that on this car, you could save your brake life and make it last a little longer, but in turn you'll put a little more wear and tear on the engine. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're doing it. Really, the basic principle I want to convey to everybody is don't really be afraid to use the features on your car, especially when it's in warranty, because they were put there by somebody. That somebody's most likely an engineer, and they know what they're doing. They did the R&D, they did the testing on everything to make it foolproof, especially on these cars. Now, manual transmission cars, they're not as foolproof. You can do something called a money shift, which basically means you're going to be spending money to fix it, because you'll over rev the engine and bend a rod or break a rod or shoot a rod through the side of the car, and essentially you need a whole new engine after that. But with this, they have an electronic control unit, ECU, that controls all the shifting for you and is basically a nanny there to keep you from destroying your car. So if you guys found this video helpful, please hit the like button. Please follow the channel and comment on what you thought of the video and the presentation, and if you ever actually use the paddle shifters in the car. Alright, so everybody have a great day, and thanks for watching.